Brent Venables and Marcus Freeman both finished the 2025 regular season with 10 wins and 2 losses. One coach navigated the number 12 schedule in the country, exceeded his win projection by 3.5 games, and secured a playoff spot in SEC. The other coach played the 42nd ranked schedule, fell short of his win total, missed the playoff entirely, and then opted his team out of a bowl game. Yet, the voters made Marcus Freeman a finalist for the Coach of the Year and left Brent Venables off the ballot completely. Today, we're doing a forensic audit on the biggest snub of the season and exposing the brand bias that proves the committee isn't watching the same games as we are. But before we go further, I have to give a shout out to you all for the growth this channel is experiencing. We aren't stopping anytime soon. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell once again. Let's go.
Welcome to Sooner Stats, your home for Oklahoma Sooners coverage.
Leading a program in the throes of an existential crisis following a sub-500 campaign in 2024 and facing one of the nation's empirically most difficult schedules, Venables engineered a 10-2 regular season record. This resurgence secured a number 8 seed in the CFP and reestablished the Sooners as a formidable national power, snapping the longest streak of unranked preseason polls for the program since 1999. Despite exceeding his preseason win total projection by 3.5 games and orchestrating the nation's premier defense and key havoc metrics, Venables was excluded from the list of 12 finalists for the 2025 Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award. In a stark and controversial contrast, Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman was selected as a finalist. This selection occurred despite Freeman finishing below his preseason win total projection, missing the college football playoff entirely, managing a strength of schedule ranked 42nd nationally compared to Oklahoma's number 12 ranking, and opting his team out of bowl consideration in a move that drew widespread criticism. This analysis posits that the exclusion of Venables in favor of Freeman reveals a systemic inefficiency in the selection process. Specifically, a failure to adjust for strength of schedule in the 12-team era, a bias toward brand stability over transitional overachievement, and a disregard for the specific degree of difficulty involved in navigating a catastrophic injury crisis during a conference transition. To fully grasp the magnitude of the coaching performance delivered by Brent Venables in 2025, one must first establish the baseline from which the Oklahoma program began. The trajectory entering the season was not merely stagnant, it was precipitous. The program was facing a confluence of headwinds that would typically capsize a coaching tenure. The 2024 season, Venables' third in Norman, concluded with a jarring 6-7 record. This marked the program's first losing season in nearly a quarter century and included humiliating defeats that shattered the program's aura of invincibility. The program, historically a bastion of offensive dominance and conference championships, had lost its identity. By the summer of 2025, the external narrative surrounding the program was toxic. Media analysts and pundits had firmly placed Venables on the hot seat, a designation usually reserved for coaches facing imminent termination. Reports highlighted that his tenure, characterized by a 22-17 record over 3 years, lacked a signature bowl victory and failed to demonstrate the offensive potency that had defined Oklahoma for 2 decades. The skepticism was quantified in the preseason polls. For the first time since 1999, the Oklahoma Sooners went unranked in the preseason coaches poll. The SEC media predicted a humbling 10th place finish for the Sooners in the 2025 conference standings. This projection placed them behind historical mid-tier programs like Missouri and Texas A&M, signaling a complete erosion of faith in Venables' vision. The Red River rivalry against Texas, and once a competitive barometer, had turned into a showcase of disparity, evidenced by a 34-3 drubbing in 2024. To survive, Venables had to do more than win games. He had to engineer a total cultural and tactical reconstruction of the program while navigating one of the most difficult conference schedules in the country. The crisis was not just competitive, it was economic and structural. The university had invested in Venables, signing him to a 6-year, $51 million contract extension in 2024. With the return on investment appearing negative, the administration architecture of the program required a reset to align with the modern realities of collegiate athletics. In a move that signaled total alignment between administration and coaching and reverberated throughout the locker room, Venables voluntarily accepted a $1 million pay cut for the 2025 season. This reduced his salary from $8.55 million to $7.55 million. The explicit purpose of this reduction was to contribute to the department's revenue-sharing efforts in the face of the House vs. NCAA settlement looming over the sport. This act of financial martyrdom was a calculated leadership move. In the era of revenue sharing and mercenary transactionalism, the head coach sacrificing personal wealth for the collective good provided the moral authority necessary to demand buy-in from a fractured locker room and validated his demands for a team-first culture. The turnaround of 2025 was fueled by a sophisticated overhaul of the program's support structures, specifically regarding name, image, and likeness, and roster management. The administrative pivot was as critical as the tactical one. Prior to 2025, Oklahoma's NIL landscape was fragmented, consisting of disparate collectives such as Crimson and Cream, the Sooner Nation Collective, and One Oklahoma Collective, competing for donor resources. This fragmentation created inefficiencies and confusion in the marketplace, hindering the program's ability to compete with SEC rivals like Texas and Texas A&M, who had streamlined their operations. In July 2025, Athletic Director Joe Castiglione and Venables orchestrated the consolidation of these entities into a single vehicle, One Oklahoma. Sooner Sports Properties was named the exclusive NIL partner, merging all operations into a single entity. This move was not merely administrative, it was a strategic alignment that allowed for centralized fundraising and distribution. The impact was immediate and substantial. The collective successfully distributed over $32 million in payments to student athletes. This liquidity was essential for two strategic objectives: retention, preventing the poaching of the current roster by SEC rivals who viewed Oklahoma's 6 and 7 team as a supermarket for talent, and acquisition, securing high-value transfers to plug immediate roster holes, a necessity for a team lacking depth in the trenches. By professionalizing the NIL operation, Oklahoma moved from a reactive stance to a proactive, market-leading position, essential for survival in the unregulated free agency of college football. To navigate this complex economic landscape, Oklahoma empowered its personnel department to function like an NFL front office. General Manager Jim Nagy was hired to oversee roster construction. His salary of $750,000 for the 2025-2026 cycle ranked him as the 8th highest paid GM in the country and 3rd in the SEC. Nagy's role was critical in evaluating the transfer portal market and managing the salary cap implications of the revenue-sharing model. He was tasked with identifying undervalued assets that fit the program's specific cultural criteria. This investment in back-office infrastructure ensured that coaching decisions were supported by robust personnel analytics and financial planning, allowing Venables to focus on the on-field product. Following the perceived softness of the 2024 squad, Venables instituted a philosophical pivot in talent acquisition. The focus shifted from changing star ratings, which often win the off-season media cycle, toward identifying players with specific psychological traits: resilience, toughness, and a love for competition. Venables termed this the pursuit of grimy players. The 2025 high school recruiting class was statistically one of the smallest and lowest ranked in modern Oklahoma history, consisting of only 18 signees and ranking number 17th nationally. In the hyper-competitive SEC, where Georgia, Texas, and Alabama routinely signed top 5 classes, this ranking was initially viewed with alarm by the fan base. However, a deeper analysis reveals this was a deliberate strategy of retention over volume. Venables prioritized the maturation of the 81 freshmen and sophomores already on the roster who had logged over 8,000 snaps in 2024. The goal was not to replace the roster, but to harden it. While high school recruiting focused on long-term culture, the transfer portal was used to address immediate existential threats. The acquisition of John Mateer from Washington State was the pivotal move of the offseason. Rated as the #1 available player in the portal at the time of his commitment, Mateer brought a dual-threat skill set essential for mitigating the offensive line struggles. His recruitment was supported by an NIL valuation estimated between $2.7 million and $3 million, demonstrating the efficacy of the One Oklahoma Collective in securing top-tier talent. This hybrid approach, using high school recruiting for long-term trench depth and the portal for immediate skill position impact, allowed Oklahoma to balance long-term development with the immediate necessity of winning games to save the coaching staff's tenure. A Coach of the Year candidate is often judged by how they manage unforeseen variables. For Venables, the variable in 2025 was a decimated offensive unit that threatened to derail the season before it began. The offense was not merely struggling, it was broken by attrition and scandal, forcing a complete strategic overhaul mid-season. The offensive woes began with a tumultuous season at quarterback. Before the first snap, the team faced a potential PR disaster. Social media's reports surfaced alleging that starter John Mateer had been involved in sports betting during his time at Washington State, citing Venmo transactions labeled sports gambling, while later clarified as inside jokes among teammates and not evidence of illicit NCAA betting. The ensuing media firestorm was intense. Venables had to navigate NCAA inquiries, manage the mental state of his first-year starter, and shield the team from the distraction, successfully leading them to a 4-0 start amidst the noise. The crisis turned physical in Week 4 against Auburn. During the 24-17 win, Mateer suffered a significant injury to his throwing hand, requiring surgery. He missed one game, but returned to play the remainder of the season with a compromised grip. Post-surgery, his efficiency plummeted. In the 7 games post-injury, he eclipsed 200 passing yards only twice and threw 10 interceptions against 12 touchdowns. The offense had to function with a quarterback who could not effectively grip the football, a handicap that would have doomed most teams in the SEC. The quarterback issues were exacerbated by the collapse of the offensive line. The offensive line is the foundation of any SEC team, and in 2025, Oklahoma's foundation was pulverized by injury. The attrition rate was catastrophic, forcing the staff to use patchwork lineups against elite defensive fronts. This attrition forced the Sooners to rely on true freshmen Michael Fasusi and Ryan Vojay at the tackle spots, a recipe for disaster in the SEC. Starting 2 freshman tackles typically results in a losing season. For Oklahoma, it was a necessity for survival. With a broken thumb quarterback and a depleted line, the coaching staff, led by new offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle, a 29-year-old hire from Washington State, had to completely redesign the offense. They shifted from an attacking, tempo-based system to a conservative, field position-oriented attack. The statistical profile of the offense was not so pretty. The rushing offense ranked 106th nationally, averaging just 125.6 yards per game. The total offense ranked 92nd nationally, and yards per rush was an abysmal 3.7 yards per carry. To guide a team to 10 wins with a 92nd ranked offense is a statistical anomaly. It required Venables to accept offensive mediocrity to leverage defensive dominance, a strategic discipline that defines elite coaching. Modern defensive analysis prioritizes havoc, a composite of tackles for loss, sacks, forced fumbles, and passes defended. Oklahoma didn't just lead the SEC, they led the nation in these critical categories. The dominance was schematic. By stopping the run, Venables forced opponents into predictable passing situations. This allowed him to unleash his signature exotic blitz packages, where defensive backs and linebackers would interchange roles, creating confusion for the quarterback. The fact that the defense improved from the 79th ranked unit in 2023 to a top 10 unit in 2025 under Venables' direct command is the ultimate vindication of his tactical acumen. In the days following the Ole Miss loss, Venables held a team meeting that would become program legend. Breaking from his usual process over outcome rhetoric, he displayed the ESPN College Football Playoff predictor on the screen. The data showed that if the team went 4-0 in November, a gauntlet featuring Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, their playoff probability would exceed 90%. What followed was a month of football that reestablished Oklahoma as a national power. The team ran the table in November, winning 4 consecutive games against SEC competition. This 4-0 run included 2 road wins at Neyland and Bryant-Denny, is arguably the most impressive single month of coaching in the 2025 season. The central controversy of the 2025 Coach of the Year race is the selection of Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman as a finalist over Brent Venables. A rigorous statistical comparison reveals this choice to be indefensible based on performance metrics, highlighting a systemic bias in the selection process. The primary metric for Coach of the Year is typically performance against expectations. By this measure, Venables and Freeman reside on opposite ends of the spectrum. In the 12-team playoff era, strength of schedule is the great equalizer. Freeman's 10 wins came against a significantly softer slate, than Venables' 10 wins. Venables navigated the 12th toughest schedule in the country. Freeman's schedule ranked 42nd. To value 10 wins against the 42nd ranked schedule over 10 wins against the 12th ranked schedule represents a fundamental analytical error by the voters. Freeman's candidacy is further marred by the nature of his season's failures. Notre Dame suffered a pivotal home loss to Miami Week 1 and a narrow 41-40 defeat to Texas A&M, where the defense failed to make a critical stop. These losses to playoff caliber teams demonstrated an inability to win big games. Following their exclusion from the playoff, Notre Dame opted out of a bowl game entirely. The official statement read, "We're hoping to bring the 12th national title to South Bend in 2026. While the administration cited disappointment for a Coach of the Year candidate to deny his seniors a final game and underclassmen valuable practice time, stands in stark contrast to the culture-building ethos usually rewarded by the FWAA. It suggests a championship or bust entitlement that is antithetical to the award spirit of maximizing a team's potential. The inclusion of Freeman, despite these statistical deficiencies, suggests that brand prestige was weighed more heavily than coaching execution. The voters seemingly rewarded the stability of the Notre Dame brand over the resurrection of the Oklahoma program, failing to adjust for the transitional difficulty Venables faced. Freeman is the only finalist who failed to meet his preseason win total. This award typically rewards overachievement or perfection. It suggests that the committee graded him on a curve, potentially due to the high media visibility of Notre Dame, rather than the cold hard data of wins above replacement. Perhaps the most empirical evidence of Venables' coaching performance is the development delta, the disparity between the perceived talent on the roster entering the season and the actual production verified by conference honors. A Coach of the Year should be judged on their ability to elevate the ceiling of their personnel. By this metric, Venables' staff produced a statistically massive surplus. Entering the season, the SEC media selected only 3 Oklahoma players to the preseason All-SEC teams. By the end of the regular season, Venables had developed 10 players into All-SEC selections. This 233% increase in all-conference representation highlights that the 10-win season was not the result of simply having better players, but rather the coaching staff's ability to extract elite performance from a roster that the league's experts had largely dismissed. What are your thoughts? Do you think Brent Venables should have been listed as a finalist for Coach of the Year? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you again for watching all the way till the end. If you want more content like this, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Also, if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button below, and you'll get access to an advanced college football dashboard I built myself. We'll see you next time. Boomer.